I'm kind of a nomad, but I've had a relationship with Prescott for the last 14 years. I'm a Prescott College graduate, and I moved here for love semi-permanently in 2014, and then left for love in 2016 and came back again. And I feel like, Rosemary introduced this event, and she was talking about the fact that we've had some heavy times, and there's a lot that could keep you from getting out of bed in the morning. And I feel that, I went through the Prescott College Sustainability Education Program, and I found that, and I think in this work you can probably relate, that there is such a deep desire to fix some of the really overwhelming problems in the world, and one of the ways that we do that is by ignoring our own well-being and just kind of like burning ourselves out to fix this world that's on fire. And the focus of my work largely became this idea that I think can be simplified, if you've, in the metaphor that being on an airplane and getting ready to take off. The flight attendants hopefully always will tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, so that then you can help other people. But you need to take care of your own well-being first. And so I looked at this idea that the way to do this for the world is to help each individual person put on their oxygen mask. And I studied my own path of putting my mask on. This is kind of like I think, an appropriate metaphor for the last couple of years of pandemic also. But the way that I have done this largely is by working with people and inviting them to share their life experiences in their own words, and then guiding them through the creative process of writing a song from their story. And I spent the last 5 years in Europe, and many of those years I was in Brussels, which is the capital of the EU. And I wanted to be working with people who were part of society but also felt like they didn't have a voice and didn't have a lot of control in the path of their lives. And so I found myself volunteering at a refugee asylum center in Brussels, and I worked with a woman who's a poet and writer, Sarah Reeder Harris, and we met on Mondays for 2 hours, and we invited any and everyone to come and to be in a safe space of welcome, to write, to speak their story in any language, in their own words, especially, I think, in the refugee crisis. I mean, there's so many people who have their stories told for them, right? And Rosemary introduced some of those people as she was introducing the event, but especially for a person migrating to a new place, their stories being told for them, and not always in a positive light. So I think that in inviting a person to share their story in their own words, we give back some of that feeling of power, of agency. You might not have control over some of the big things in life, but we can control how we show up, the story that we tell. And so my work is to help guide that process, and then to share these stories and the songs that are born. And I'm going to start with a song that I wrote. It's an early song I wrote while working with refugees. And it's one where an older man from Syria in Arabic was explaining how he wanted to kind of show up in the world in a positive way. And he said that the way that he would do that is to be a word of hope and love, and to ask permission to exist in every home all over the world, and in being in our homes to then hopefully be in our hearts. It's called I Am a Word, and I dedicate this to my dear friend Beth because she's one of my biggest supporters, which makes it possible to stand up here. So this is I Am a Word. I am a word of hope and love. I bring honor to the world. I will push the darkness away. Can I come to your house and stay? I am a word. I am the root of all resistance. I bring light for us to grow. I will push the sorrow away. Can I come to your heart and stay? I am a word. I am the life you've left behind, the path that you now follow, the melody of your song, the place you can belong. I am a word of hope and love. I bring honor to the world. I will push the darkness away. Can I come to your house and stay? I am a word. Thank you. Something that I think is there's so many layers in each story that we tell. So there's so many meanings that you can draw from a story in terms of shaping it into a song. And when I'm guiding this musical process, I'm listening to these words, I'm seeing them be written or hearing them, come from a person, and I'm thinking about what emotion or what element of the human experience they're really communicating that might speak to many people. And that's what becomes the chorus. That's the part of the song that gets repeated. It can be a refrain at the end of a verse. It can be a formal chorus in between verses. The verses themselves they're action-oriented. They're the unfolding of that story. And I hope that most of you listening have never had the experience of having to leave your home in the midst of bombing and violence. I know we've had fires recently, and there were people who had to leave their homes. But the idea is that when you listen to this chorus, you recognize in the words of a stranger the human experience that you've also moved through. Maybe it's a desire to belong, or having to leave your home, coming to a new community, feeling like you're somewhere in between the place you are and the place that you've left, wanting a peaceful life for yourselves and your children. And that when you relate to that story, you begin to maybe see yourself in the words and experience of someone else. And so that's why it's so important to me, not only to guide this process of writing this music, but to share these stories. I was recently listening to a This American Life episode, because I'm a TAL junkie also, and it was an episode about breaking the rules. And I think that this kind of way of being in the world breaks the rules in that it's inviting people to show up as their authentic self, which is revolutionary and it's countercultural. And in this episode, they asked this question: how do you win? And the answer was solidarity. So showing up as you are and being seen, and then finding that space where we can empathize and understand and be together. That's why I write these songs. And I'm going to sing you another one, because I could talk about all of them on and on and on. But I'm going to sing one that's called I Could Be You, You Could Be Me, in terms of this idea of walking in another person's footsteps. And it's this idea, we wrote it with a refugee from Gaza, that any of us could have our lives changed, and at any moment. And also this idea that so much about who we are and the path of our life can originate just in where we're born and in what family, religion, culture. It doesn't mean that we're stuck there, but that's kind of how it begins. So this is one that has a line at the end. It's also written on my ukulele case if you have binoculars. And and it's just repeated at the end of each verse. And it's really easy, and I'm starting in English to like ease you in. It goes like this. I could be you, you could be me. I could be you, you could be me. We can change the dark to light if we want to be free. We are bound together if only we could see. Here we go. I could be you, you could be me. I didn't hear anything, but I've got a mic, so. We don't choose our species if we're a peacock or a pigeon. We don't choose our family, our country, or religion. I could be the king of Belgium, he could be a refugee. Here we go. I could be you, you could be me. What if we couldn't see the color of our skin? All we could see was the person's soul within. Buddhist, Christian, Jewish, Shiite or Sunni, here we go. I could be you, you could be me. We don't have to follow a story born of fear. We all come from somewhere else, but we're together here. Our fate is not yet written, it's who we choose to be. I could be you, you could be me. I could be you, you could be me. We can change the dark to light if we want to be free. We are bound together if only we could see. I could be you, you could be me. I'm gonna say it again. I could be you, you could be me. One more time. I could be you, you could be me. Thank you. So Rosemary was talking about that heaviness, and you know, I think we've all experienced heaviness and loss, and that feeling of just not knowing what's going to happen, uncertainty, being out of control of even the events of your own life and the lives of your loved ones. And certainly for the experience of so many of these people